All right, here we go. We're gonna make pastry cream. Pastry cream, it's my favorite. First, what I'm gonna do is start, which is a delicious egg custard. I guess I could tell you what we're making. Vanilla pudding made from scratch. We're gonna use the scratch vanilla bean in it, which just brings out that flavor and amazingness. And just can be done. It can be piped. It can be a filling. It can be baked. It's the best Nacho Mama's banana pudding that you can add to it with the vanilla pudding. It's just really amazing. So we're going to start and put it all together, and I'm going to show you how I learned how to do it. And every great pastry chef, as I would my little later on, every great pastry chef has to know how to make pastry cream from scratch. Or creme patisserie is also its name. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my pan my larger components of heavy cream and milk off the formula. My heavy cream, and the heavy cream in it just adds richness. I like pastry cream because I like to be able to pipe it, that you can actually cut with a knife. So I like it stiff. That's kind of my way. We're going to add this vanilla bean, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to incorporate it and how to use it. The vanilla bean comes from the yellow flowering orchid plant and actually Central and South America. We get it now from all over the world, but a lot of times it's hand pollinated, and that's what makes it so expensive. There was a bee, this is from what I read, there was a bee that was in charge of all the pollination. As you move the plant around the world, that ecosystem does not exist, and so there is no bee, so that's why it's hand pollinated. But it's a beautiful thing. It comes off very green. We then lay it out in the sun. Fermentation happens. It makes it rich and beautiful. And we're going to cut it in half first, and then we're going to slice it right down the middle. Making sure you can see this right down the middle, and then I'm going to scrape the beans here and then here, and then I'm going to drop the whole pot in there because it still has more in it and I don't want to waste it. I'm going to infuse this first part of this dairy with all this delicious vanilla. The beauty of pastry cream is I've made it so many different ways, and as I've always told you in everything that we do, you learn the classical method, and once you learn the classical method, you can then make it your own, and that's what's going to make you profitable and make it your own. I've done this as butterscotch. I don't want to waste those vanilla beans. Whoa, right there. I've taken the sugar that I'm going to incorporate, so the sugar here, I had to find it, sugar here, and made it brown sugar within the actual ingredients, and really what it makes is butterscotch pudding that is to die for. So you can change the components up any way you want to. I've caramelized the sugar, and it makes a beautiful caramel pastry cream. You add dark chocolate to it. Once it's hot and done, it is the center to a beautiful chocolate cream pie. It's just really, really good. You just can't go wrong with any of it. So a component of the sugar, you can see it's kind of how it's written in the formula. The vanilla beans that are whole, I'm going to add it in here. I'm going to stir it up, and I'm going to put it on the heat, and I want to bring it to a boil. I don't want it to bring it to a simmer or a shimmer, and I don't want the heat to get too hot on it. I want to kind of come in here and agitate it so that as I do that, I'm also agitating those vanilla beans, and those vanilla beans are going to open up, and all the seeds that are available in those vanilla beans are become part of that pastry cream. So I do that on purpose. The next thing I do, we kind of have a second section and component because pastry cream is a cooked custard and part of the egg cookery in the bakery. And what we want to be able to do is we're thickening in pastry cream with a starch. So we're going in with cornstarch and egg yolks, lots of beautiful egg yolks, and we're going to temper. This is the tempering method in the pastry shop that allows us to take eggs that are uncooked, raise the temperature of them so that we can then put them back on the stove and on direct heat and cook them and not coagulate them, but make a beautiful custard cream. We have to cook it so that the cornstarch is activated. We're going to talk about that when I put it on the stove. We want to activate the cornstarch about 185, 190, and really what I look for is I always call it a bubble or a blurble in the middle of the pastry cream to know my cornstarch has set. So what I want to do, and what I've learned in the bakery, is to add wet to dry. So my dry is my cornstarch, my component of cornstarch that's in the formula, and I'm going to add that first. Wet to dry. You got to remember that. It's always a great mixing method. Wet to dry. And then I'm going to add the sugar, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to kind of just incorporate it and stir it, stir, and right, breaking up the sugar and the cornstarch, and that's what the sugar's doing. Makes it so the cornstarch is easier to incorporate. Then I have 2 components smaller, 4 ounces of heavy cream and milk, and my egg yolks. And those are all gonna go in the middle, and we're gonna make a paste. And that paste is what then we're gonna add the cream that's on the stove to. And I don't want any lumps. Cornstarch has a tendency to lump, and what we're trying in this mixing method is to make sure that we don't incorporate any lumps into the cornstarch and sugar and egg yolks. No lumps. Lumps are not good. So I'm going to come in here and incorporate. You see I'm whisking. I like a whisk with it. I'm going to get all that dry that's in there. You're going to see it's going to come together and make a real nice paste. And my cornstarch, because of the way I incorporated the liquid on top of it, if I were to pour the dry on top, I would have some lumpy, chunky, messy kind of product here, and I don't want that, because I don't want that to be my pastry cream. So I have a nice cohesive mass. It's all incorporated really well. It looks really good. And what I'm doing is waiting for my product on the stove to come to temperature all the way up. I need a boil. Then I'm going to temper. I'm going to take this hot product, I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to slowly whisk it in here into the eggs, raise the temperature of the ingredients that are in here. I'm going to pour it back into my pot, and I'm going to cook it low and slow. And what that's going to now allow me to do is then set that cornstarch and those eggs that make this beautiful cream. The last thing we're going to do is finish it with butter, drop the temperature, and then we're going to lay it out on a pan to cool over an ice bath. So we're going to stop right there. I'm going to wait for my ingredients to come to a boil, and then we're going to take it from there. So hang on. All right, here we go. My cream and milk and vanilla bean are up to a boil. I'm going to turn my heat up, and I'm going to temper this hot liquid into the eggs, and I'm going to do it slowly, but assertively, I like to say. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm bringing all that hot liquid. I want to make sure I really get it dispersed really well. This is called tempering. Tempering in this hot liquid into these egg yolks, so that we make sure that we're making a beautiful pastry cream. Here, lovely, seeing it's all together, and then I want to rapidly pour it right back into that hot stock pot. Get everything in there, and I still have my whole vanilla beans in there. Put that over there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right back on the heat, and we're going to cook it low and slow, which I'm going to show you right now. All right, so I have my pastry cream back on the stove. I've turned my heat down from when I had it when I was boiling. I don't want to cook it that fast. The lower and slower I go, the better it's going to do. I've kind of set it up on this burner so that I'm centered on it. You can see a foam starts to kind of lay itself on top. You're going to be able to see when the pastry cream starts to set. What's going to happen is it's going to start to really cook on the bottom of this pot. That's why we're not going to stop stirring it ever, not for a minute. We're going to come in here and make sure our sides are all neat and clean, and the whole bottom of the pot has been taken care of. Once it starts to kind of set on the bottom, we really want to disperse that heat all over this pastry cream, all the way around all this liquid. And what I'm going to do is make sure it's not too hot. If I feel like it's cooking too fast, the one medium I have to be able to change is my temperature. So I'm going to lower the heat or take it off altogether, and bring my product together. Really whisking it and incorporating it so that the temperature is evenly distributed. And then I'll put it back on the heat and finish it to where I want it to be, where I get that kind of little bit of boil in the middle. I'm not looking for too much. As soon as I get that boil, I'm going to pull it and add my butter to it, or turn the heat off and add my butter, which we'll do, so I can do it right here. And that allows, that butter drops the temperature, adds richness, but really cools it down quickly, because the bottom of this pot has stayed very warm. We don't want this eggs to keep cooking once we've reached temperature. And what we're trying to do this is a custard, how we think of it, is set the cornstarch within these eggs at a certain temperature so that it all comes together and makes this beautiful creme patisserie. So you can see my foam is kind of going away, and I'm going to make you stay here the whole time with me on this video, so bear with me. And I'm making sure I'm taking my whisk and getting all the corners and all the edges, and nobody is going unnoticed. You can see my foam is starting to go away. That is super important. I'm going to grab my butter while I'm doing this, because I'm alone. Grab my butter, and you can see I'm starting to set. I have some steam coming up off the top, and that means I really got to start being aggressive and getting that heat dispersed to this whole pot of deliciousness. You can see it's coming around. My foam is gone. First sign that I'm really getting ready to be done, but it's not done. If you see any brown specks, all you're seeing is that vanilla bean coming to the top. You can see I'm starting to thicken really quick, so I'm gonna turn myself down because I'm okay with that. I'd rather go low and slow, and you can see the whole pot starting to set. And what that is that starch and eggs. And really, see how it thickens? Look at that start to set itself up. And that's what we're looking for in the actual pastry cream. You can see the shine from the cornstarch. What I'm gonna look for is a little whoop in the middle, and that means I'm done. And as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna start adding that butter. I wanna get all of it. Make sure your butter is in small pieces. And that butter is gonna lower my temperature, which is a good thing. And it's gonna stop the cooking process. It's going to add richness and flavor and a beautiful shine to it. And you know, everything's better with butter in my opinion. So I'm gonna stop us right here where I'm adding the butter. I'm gonna move us over again one more time, kind of show you how we're going to cool it down, store it, and use it. All right, here I am. Okay, so we've made this beautiful pastry cream. You can see the butter's been incorporated. I still have some heat coming off, but not as much as I would, and it's really, the butter has helped stop that cooking process, and it's beautiful and rich. Creamy. Any specks I see are all vanilla bean. As a requirement for pastry cream, has to be cooled down over ice. It's a very perishable product. It's egg-based. It has to be very careful. You have to be very careful with it. So it's something that once mixed and cooked, I would make sure I ice bathed and brought to temperature correctly, then to keep it in the refrigerator. What I've done is I have a hotel pan here, which I'm going to add it to here. And I'm going to pull my vanilla beans out. Because I'm done with them, and I'm going to clean them very well, and I'm going to dry them, and I'm going to add them and make vanilla sugar with them. So I don't want to waste them. We want to make sure we do total utilization of everything. You can see it's a beautiful pastry cream. Come in here and make sure I get it all. What I'm going to do once I'm done with it and I get it on the ice bath, I'm going to lay plastic wrap directly on it. It can form a skin, and I don't want that. So here I'm going to cool it down. It out here. Now I will get my vanilla beans out of it. You can see there I am. Oh, it's so delicious. Here I'm going to get this all in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap before I set it on my ice bath. I'm going to show you how I want to. And I want to lay it directly on that pastry cream, and all the way down onto it, so that it doesn't form a skin and it stays all beautiful and soft and delicious. So here it is. I'm going to set it on my ice and cool it down. Once it's cool enough, I'm going to then put it in the reach-in and make sure that I take great care of it. Taste it, because it's really good. It's the best vanilla pudding you'll ever have in your life. So from it, we're going to do French fruit tarts, and we're going to finish our eclairs with it, fill them with it. So it's a super versatile product. We use it in a lot of different items. Gosh, when I was in Argentina and Buenos Aires, they had these croissants that would come out every day, and they would fill them with pastry cream and then toasted almonds and then bake them off, and it was just like, I could not wait to eat them. So pastry cream is a staple in the bakery, and like I said, every great pastry chef has to know how to make it, and now you do, which I'm very excited. So this is the end of making pastry cream, and we'll move on to the next. Thank you.